Have a seat. So,
This is like the armrest.
yeah, this is the divider.
This is
my space. That's
Do
your
you need
space.
space? Do you need a safe space?
I need a safe space.
Okay.
I feel like that was a microaggression. Okay. Okay. Hey everybody, Chum for the Good Dog, and this is the Good Dog's Q&A Saturday, episode number 150. Is that zero? Oh, okay. I thought you were
Do
just.
I have to do an
No, I
extra
just
zero?
thought you were confused. I thought you were like 1, 5, and then just
I
got
was
stuck.
confused for a second. I was like, no, this is zero. This is not zero. This is okay.
This is actually rock, papers, and scissors. Scissors. Who knows what the hell I'm saying? Anyways, okay. So, episode 150. That's quite a lot of episodes. Guys, thanks for hanging with us. It's been quite a journey. What, like a couple of years? And then we took, a year off?
Probably.
And then jumped back in, and we've been sporadic. We have not been the most...
Yeah, but it's been busy. You've been back and forth between here and LA.
Yeah, I've been busy. So get off my back. Okay, anyways, guys. All right, so let's just chat about some stuff going on. So I leave for Detroit
On
Thursday.
Tomorrow, basically.
No, tomorrow's Wednesday, right?
Oh, yeah, but we're going to go to bed soon, so it's like tomorrow.
It always works out this way. No matter what my schedule is, there's a day cut off. Even though there's a day actually in between, it's in order to feel sad that I'm leaving sooner than I am, but I'm really not. So tomorrow would be Wednesday.
So you're leaving in 2 days?
I'll be here for the entirety of Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And then I will leave on Thursday.
I know.
Anyways, so that's funny. Anyways, so for the Detroit workshop, that's going to be TGD workshops concepts, and that's me, Ashley Smentek from Goldtail Canine, and we'll be diving in deep into the concepts, philosophies, beliefs, approaches, all the different kind of fundamental, foundational, blueprintal aspects of how we do what we do, with a very, very specific focus on how to teach you not just the blueprint, which is incredibly important because it can truly help you make amazing changes with dogs, but give you that blueprint and then also teach you how to deviate from the blueprint, teach you how to be creative, teach you how to break the rules, teach you how to tweak things, teach you how to jettison things that you're like, that worked for this dog, this dog, this dog, this dog, but not with this dog. And being able to just on a dime, boom, turn, this is what this dog needs in order to succeed. It's really the most challenging part of dog training. Most folks think it's like, the mechanics and the commands and the tools and things like that. But it's really like having a dog in front of you and figuring out what are you going to do and how are you going to do it. And then being able to switch and turn on a dime when needed in order to best serve the dog. And that comes from having a foundation, but then also the fluidity and the creativity to jettison all of that foundational stuff, so you're not anchored to it. A lot of trainers get stuck. They're like, this is how we do it, and we only do it this way. And once you understand the foundational principles, and if we do a good job of teaching you guys how to look at them and examine them, then hopefully you'll be able to navigate them on your own in a way that will empower you to make your own best decisions based on these foundational principles, but able to also jettison them and move on and do your own thing. So that's coming up this weekend. And anybody who's like driving distance to Michigan, like get on out. If you're flying distance, you still got time, a couple days. I hear the weather's like 78 degrees, it's like toasty, bikini weather. So like,
That's better than here.
yeah, get out. Yeah. Get out, get your bikini out. So what else is going on? Moving to a new house. That is what was supposed to happen at the end of this month, but it's happening when?
On next week, Wednesday.
Okay, so basically like the 14th,
Like a week,
something
literally.
like that.
The day, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, so
Something
like
that.
mid, what month are we in?
November.
Mid-November. And so this house is cute, beautiful, sweet, charming as it is. It's just too small. And there's not enough storage space. There's not enough space for each of us to do our work. We both work from home largely. She's also a student, so she's studying. I'm studying. We're both trying to do a bunch of projects, and there's just not enough space to get the hell away from each other. Let's just be honest. So this house is super exciting. 2 stories, pool, brick backyard where we can actually work with some dogs. I can start working on tricks with Billy B, which could be a fun thing to really like document, like how to train, Billy B through all of her trick stuff, the same way that I kind of did with Belle. And just a lot of space, which I think we're both looking forward to having like just some room to be individual humans. So that's super important. Leashes and collars. Tell the folks what's cooking with that.
So as far as biothane leashes, they are so close to be finished. So close. And then the collars are in their last stretch of last supplies, last materials, gathering together. And once we have that, then they are like this close to be launched as well. So it's all gonna definitely be before Christmas, 100%.
Leashes and collars?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be in the next 2 weeks. It could be in the next 4 weeks, but nothing longer than that.
Okay. So anybody who's truly interested in getting some TGD Ultimate leashes and collars for Christmas should have no problem making that happen.
No.
That's pretty cool. And this has been quite the project. So
It's been almost a year.
Sandra's like, she thought like, oh, I'll make some leashes. She had no idea what she was getting herself into. So
It's been 9 months now of leash adventure.
wow. Well, a lot of folks digging them. I mean, I get posts every single day of people showing their dogs out on our leashes and really enjoying them. So they're obviously working, and that makes me really, really happy. So what else we got? Come see me on TikTok. I'm currently blowing TikTok up. Now, there's some folks on there like, what's her name?
Charlie D'Amelio.
Charlie D'Amelio. I'm not going to do a duet with Charlie D'Amelio anytime soon.
She's very cute.
She's very cute. She's 15, so boys, be careful. Her dad's actually on TikTok as well, and he's keeping an eye on everybody. But we jumped into TikTok, I don't know, a month ago, something like that, maybe.
Probably, yeah.
And have gone pretty hard, and we've been able to like move really quickly as far as the amount of people that are following us is now, I think, over 13,000, moving towards 14,000, which is like, God, did it take us forever to get anywhere near that in Facebook or Instagram.
Yep.
So, and it's not the same as Facebook or Instagram in that the way people interact and engage, it's a little bit different. It's a little more superficial. The age, a lot of you guys are like, oh, it's for kids and just like people flirting and stuff like that. Okay, so there is that, but there's also a shit ton of things that are aging up. There's cops on there, there's lawyers on there, there's dentists on there, there's real estate, there's, did I say doctors? Gary V's on there, so there's business people, there's all sorts of, Will Smith is on there, I just heard that Tom Brady's on there. Everybody's on there. So
What's
it's
his name? The doctor, the
Dr. Oz.
yeah.
Dr. Oz is on there. So it's not just a kid's platform anymore. And what I think you're going to see is TikTok is going to age up very fast. And the big difference, which I was really kind of like thinking about today with TikTok versus like, say, Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, is that TikTok, unlike especially Facebook and Instagram, which are really about like more social platforms, like hang out and talk to your friends and like check out where I was and this is what's going on.
Sharing your life, basically. Kind of.
Yeah. TikTok is
more to,
way
like, be
more about
creative.
being creative and entertaining. And if you make some friends along the way, that's great, but that's not the primary goal. The primary
It's
goal
not
is
to follow your friends.
it's not to stay in touch with your family and make sure mom's okay and is grandma watching everything. It's mainly for a creative outlet. So there's a shit ton of creativity, which makes it a lot of fun to watch. And it's aging up incredibly fast. So I recommend you come see us over there. It's at The Good Dog Training on TikTok. So if you want to come follow us, some of the stuff is similar to what I post in other spots. Some of it isn't. Some of it is shorter versions of what you might see on Facebook or Instagram. Some of it is completely different. So, and it should only get better and better. So if you're not on TikTok, and for one, you want to have some fun. Two, you want to support us. And three, you want to try and kick butt with your business. And you're like, well, I'll wait. Like, wait long enough, it'll be too late. Yeah. So we're already moving ahead of a lot of trainers on there because we've gone so early and we've worked every single day to put 2 to 3 pieces of content that are valuable out that work within TikTok. I'm not just like doing, you know, the same thing. Yeah, it's definitely got its own flavor. Anyways, and then finally, Love Them by Leading Them, Volume 2. Almost finished. I was up until past midnight last night doing the final versions. So there's basically 3 sections: you, your dog, training, and then there's a couple bonus pieces and a couple pieces on owners' experiences. But the 3 biggies are you, your dog, and training. And I've got you knocked out. I've got your dog knocked out except for one piece, and I'm just looking for a couple word changes that I need to do. I tried for hours last night. I banged my head against the computer and I was like, oh, you can find it, and I was just too tired and I couldn't find it. So I will find it, and then I'll jump into training, wrap that up, send all the final edits over to Gidget, and then we will actually move into production and get that damn book out. And the thing is, I think people are going to be blown away because it's, as much as people like the first one, it's way better than the first one. I'm just going to put it out there and just say it. And that's not for promotion. I just know that I'm able to write better, more clearly, dive deeper into concepts and subjects that are important. So with that, I say it's time that we jump in the show. What do you say?
I say let's do it.
Okay. All right, lady. Why don't you lay it on me?
With question number 1?
Yep.
Question number 1 from Rochelle Nelson on the Sean O'Shea Facebook page. How do you get family on board with training the proper way?
I've got some notes.
Okay.
Okay, Rochelle. This is all meant with love, so don't take it the wrong way, even if the tone sounds a little firm. The answer is you don't. All you do is explain the realities involved, what real life will look like, how much work will be involved for them, the clients, and then you let them go. Trying to get a family on board is like trying to get a guy or girl to like you. So those are just the little notes I wrote for myself, but I see this happening with so many trainers where they're like, how do I get an owner or how do I get a family to move from this space of disinterest, boredom, overwhelmed by other parts of life, not a priority, whatever it is, to a space where they give a shit as much as you do about the dog And the reality is that you can't force anybody to care more than you do. I know that's an old cliche in dog training, but you can't convince anyone in anything to care more than you do, right? So that's why I brought up the relationship thing. It's like, it's a very toxic, unhealthy dynamic to be in a space where you're like, I really want this for you, and I think it'll be really good for you. Now, if I can just convince you and bring you over to the side, your life will be great. And what's going to happen is that person or those people are going to be resentful, annoyed, frustrated with you, and they're going to push back against, they're going to be resistant to what you're trying to say. And then you're going to be annoyed, frustrated, resistant, pissed off about them being resistant. And it's going to create this thing, which is basically you have conflicting desires, right? And so the only workaround with this isn't to get some magic language or some magic verbal, psychological, manipulative approach to get them on board. And I'm not saying you're manipulative or trying to do anything nefarious, but that's not the trick, or that's not the way. It won't lead you to where you want to get to. What you want to get to is being so discerning and so careful, so cautious, so picky. And that comes with certain things that you have to do, but getting into that space to where you can actually pick your clients and say, you're really into it. I want to work with you. You're really into it. You've got a huge family and it's really complicated and a tough dog, but man, you're so dedicated. I want to work with you.
And they are too.
You guys, you're not so much into it. Yeah, you're willing to pay the money, you're willing to show up for the sessions, but you're not really present, and you're not really willing to do the follow-up work and the homework and things like that. Those dogs are going to fail, those owners are going to fail, and ultimately you're going to feel like a failure. So this is the big shift with dog trainers, is that you have to get into the space where you work exceptionally hard to show up front your value. You need to show content. You need to show results. You need to show your personality. You need to show what you bring to the table. You need to show what it would be like to work with you. And then allow people to make their decisions about whether they want to work with you and whether they're going to be fully committed. So this is the spot where dog trainers oftentimes get caught because they want the sale so bad that they'll take something that's substandard as far as clientele, and then what ends up happening, you end up being frustrated and disappointed and resentful, and you become that bitter, angry, frustrated dog trainer that blames owners for not doing good work. And the reality, the really hard, cold reality is, it's your fault, or whoever's fault lets those people in, or who lets those people in. Any dog trainer who does that, it's their fault. So anybody who brings, it's just like a negative relationship. Anybody who brings somebody negative into their life and then says, wow, these people were really negative and it was terrible. And it's like, yeah, but you allowed them to spend this time with you, and you spent time with them, and right? You didn't have your boundaries right. You didn't, articulate your needs appropriately. You didn't say, whoa, this doesn't work. All of that stuff. It's all universal. It's all tied in. So if you want kick-ass, badass, amazing clients, there's no perfect formula, no matter what you do. You can do all the stuff that I just told you about, creating massive, massive amounts of content, as we do, and which will, like I like to equate it to like online dating. It basically gives the prospective customers a really, really deep insight into who you are and how you train and how you work and things like that. So if you put all that stuff out there, then your client has a really good shot at going, I really like that trainer, or something rubs me the wrong way, or boy, they're really demanding, or wow, look at all the homework they want us to do. I thought we would just like train the dog. We're paying a lot of money and the dog would be fine. And so even with all of that information that we share, we still occasionally will get owners that are not perfect, that are not completely committed, that are not in the best space. And when that happens, I always say the same thing. It's like, I let him in the door. I made the mistake, or we as a team made the mistake. And so the goal is do everything you can to create a filtering system that will push away the people that are a bad fit for you and attract the people that are a great fit for you. And then you have to do the hard work of navigating that and discerning, you're a good fit, you're a good fit, you're not a good fit, you're not a good fit, you're a good fit. And then being able to be gutsy enough to actually say no to certain clients, to say no to the money, to say no to the business, and build from there. And that's really, how do you get a family totally on board with good, solid training? You don't. They do. Right? You show them the way. You can coach them. You can cheer them on. If they're unsure, if they're worried, if they're scared, if they don't know what's going on, absolutely, that's your gig. But your gig isn't to say like, you need to do this and you have to be like this and you have to change your life. That's not your job. That's their job. Your job is just to guide them, lead them, help them, and then they have to do the other part of the work like any other healthy relationship. So I hope that helps.
Are you ready for question number 2?
I don't know. I feel beat up after question number 1.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Question number 2 is from Kiki, also on the Sean O'Shea page on Facebook.
Oh, Kiki.
Kiki. I know you've listened to them before. I know you have listed them before. But I'm doing some major soul searching and self-development. I've been given a few podcasts to listen to, and they're just not for me. I know you have probably mentioned them a million times, but I can't seem to find them. Okay, we have to do it again because I can't fucking.
Go ahead. Well, there's no editing. Just rock and roll.
There is editing.
No. Just kind of take your lumps, just like I do.
Question number 2. Are you ready?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Whenever you are.
It's real.
I'm curious what this question's all about.
Question number 2 is from Kiki, and Kiki is saying...
Kiki? Wow, I love Kiki. Great. Okay, what does she have to ask about?
I know you have listed them before, but I'm doing some major soul searching and self-development. I have been given a few podcasts to listen to, and they're just not for me. I know you have probably mentioned them a million times, but I can't seem to find a post to replay them. Thanks so much in advance. So podcasting.
Wow, that question just came out of the blue and caught me by surprise. And Kiki, awesome question. Okay, so I wrote some notes.
It's probably one of your favorite things to talk about.
I saw it and I was like, ooh, good stuff.
Grab it.
Yes. Okay, so for one, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, just to be honest. I used to listen to Tim Ferriss, then I kind of fell out of that. There's been a few here and there, but to be honest, the only ones I truly listen to currently are Joe Rogan and Jocko Willink, which I think is just called Jocko Podcast. So if you look up Joe Rogan, you'll find his, and he's got amazing guests. And then if you look up Jocko Podcast, you'll find his stuff. And that isn't for everybody. I mean, he's a very brilliant dude. And he's got a lot of great insight, but a lot of his stuff is about heavy content. And so it's not for everybody. A lot of it is about military and warfare, but he views all of it through a prism of how to use that information, what he's gleaned to be able to help do a better job of leading a life moving forward and then passing that information along. So those are the 2 podcasts. Besides that, I watch a ton of long form videos and I listen to a ton of audiobooks. A few of those would be, and it kind of goes back and forth because I have audiobooks and videos of most of these people. So I kind of like, it just depends where I'm at. So JP, also known as Jordan Peterson. So Jordan's got a ton of long form videos. You can watch them on Joe Rogan. That would be a great introduction. Joe Rogan and
part 1 and part 2.
and
Because there's 2 of
there's
them.
actually 3 of them.
There's
A third one. So Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson, you could also look up, which is really fascinating, and I think there's 3 of them as well, which is Jocko Podcast, which you couldn't find 2 different people. Jocko, who's a ex-Navy SEAL, and Jordan Peterson, and how much alignment there is in their thought process in how they analyze and view the world from completely different places. So that's super fascinating, and I've watched those a bunch of times. Let's see. Douglas Murray is somebody I'm really into right now. Douglas Murray's been around for a while. He wrote, he wrote his first book at 18, that son of a bitch. He's British, and his first book, not his first book, but his first bestseller, I think, was The Strange Death of Europe, which is a fascinating book.
It was like, 3 years ago?
Yeah, something like that. And then he's only 39. Like, Jesus, really? Come on, man. Slow down, all right? And then his brand new book, which he's out promoting, and if you type in Douglas Murray, what's the name of the book? The Madness of Crowds. If you type in Douglas Murray, The Madness of Crowds, you'll find a ton of interviews with him all over the place. And he's a brilliant guy, English, and has a very prim and proper presentation, but he's not afraid to drop a few F-bombs here and there. So he's not so prim and proper. Let's see, what else do we got? Will Durant, one of my big time faves, and a lot of people haven't heard of him. Will Durant died many years ago. He wrote an 11-volume series with his wife, Ariel, and who he married at 15.
And she came on rollerblades to their wedding.
They didn't have rollerblades back there, roller skates.
It's the same thing.
Almost.
Shelby and I Googled it because I coded one thing, she coded the other thing, and we realized it's the same thing.
Well, roller skates, but back in the 20s, they didn't really have inline skates. They had a different thing. Yeah. So at 15, she roller skated to the courthouse and married him, and they lived forever and ever and ever, happily ever after, and wrote 11 volumes of the book. What's it, The Story of Civilization, I think, and they're incredibly intense. That's too much for me. I would be dead before I ever finished it. But the book that you probably, if you follow me, you've seen on Instagram stories where I share things that I'm watching. The Story of History. An amazing story, which could easily have been called The Patterns of History, or the pattern of human nature, the pattern of human behavior. It is such a fantastic audiobook, and actually has some interviews with him as he was older and his wife, which are pretty funny because they bicker back and forth, which is really great stuff. So Will Durant, I think, is somebody, Kiki, that you might really, really like. Jonathan Haidt, he's got several books out. The Coddling of the American Mind is one of the more recent ones. The Happiness something, and then a couple other books. He's a professor, was at University of Virginia. I think he's now NYU, something like that. Super brilliant guy. And I can't list everybody, but I'm just going to try and run through here. Gad Saad. Every time I say his name, everybody's like, Gad Saad. Why is he sad? Gad Saad is a refugee from Lebanon. Managed to escape with his family when he was younger, as the civil war was breaking out. And they endured many, many hardships and horrors. And he's now a professor of biological, is it biological or is it oh, what the hell is it? Evolutionary biology,
I thought it
and
was Brett Weinstein.
and well, he is too, as how that affects consumer behavior. So he applies that to consumer behavior, and he's also very funny. He's also pushing very hard against a lot of bullshit that's going on right now. And so if you want to watch an academic who is an active professor but will pull no punches and actually is funny as hell, type in GADSAD or The Sad Truth, SAAD, The Sad Truth, and you can watch that.
It's just amazing how like funny he is and like how he makes fun of someone.
Yeah,
Cool.
he's a funny guy. Brett Weinstein. Brett was at Evergreen College, and when all of the kerfuffle went down about a day of absence, and he decided to stay, it ended up being a big, big deal. And him and his wife, who's also an evolutionary biologist, were both removed from the school. They did a settlement, and then they actually had to, for their own safety, move away. He's a super smart, super kind, super level-headed guy, and to see him in that space is pretty amazingly sad. There's a brand new interview with him, Brett Weinstein, and Douglas Murray that is fabulous because they're just two brilliant minds. And then, of course, Seth Godin's blog, which is just free, and it shows up in your
Inbox.
email inbox every day, and just little nuggets of goodness. And so those are some things that I would recommend you just start with and see what you like, see what clicks with you, see, you know, you may watch Jocko and be like, ugh, or you may watch Joe Rogan and be like, ugh, but then you may watch JP and be like, I really dig that, or Brett, or whatever it is. And that's kind of the work we all have to do is go through all of this different material that we're so lucky to have access to, and then figure out what actually resonates with us, and start to dive in deeper, and then inevitably that leads us to somebody else and somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. So anyways, those are my recommendations. I hope they help, and let me know. DM me.
Tom Bilyeu's Impact Theory.
Tom Bilyeu, yeah. That's an interesting one because it's more of a show. Impact theory.
There's some really cool topics that are like all over the place and just like nice to like just get information from the, you know.
Yeah, so Tom Bilyeu is a brilliant guy, and he was a co-founder of Quest Nutrition, and you know, sold his share of it and walked away with like bucketfuls, well, wheelbarrowfuls or Ferrari-fuls of money, and has now dedicated his life to building a studio that can actually impact the mindset of people at scale. And he's got a lot of very positive, amazing things up his sleeve, and he has incredible guests on his show. So if you look up Impact Theory, you'll also see people like Seth Godin and a lot of the people on this list.
And his Instagram is really great. Recently, it's just been very different to what he has been doing.
And for business, if you want to do business, Gary Vaynerchuk, obviously. I'm a big fan of Gary, but if you don't want business stuff, Gary's probably not the best guy for you, but I love him. Okay, so I think...
Are we ready to jump into...
I think we wrapped up question number 2.
Nice.
Thanks, Kiki.
Up top.
What?
High five. You have to go like this. Like full arm swing. Oh no, your shoulder hurts, right?
I can do it.
Okay.
Are you saying that I'm too old to actually put my arm up? Oh!
Do it, but like proper, like this. Hop, hop. Okay, 1, 2, hop, hop.
There we go.
Question number 3.
Yes.
Question number 3 is from Becky Lawson. We adopted a severely abused boy about 4 years ago. He was severely reactive to people, especially men and children, but also towards some women. He had also had a severe bite history. He had mauled a little boy when unleashed in a stranger's home, multiple gashes on his face, but he was okay. It was definitely fear reactions, but seemingly unprovoked. We ultimately had to put him down after rounds of training went unsuccessful, and he ended up biting 2 of our own kids. We searched for months for an aggressive, savvy home with no children, but no one would risk it. We worked him on prong training, but I don't believe it was the right approach for him, because if anything, it made him more fearful. Seeing all your posts and the transformations you've all done for so many pups, and this is where my Facebook just says no.
That's it?
Well, no, there's more, but my phone just said
Okay,
no.
so I can fill in for you.
Okay.
A little teamwork?
Yeah.
So I think it's Becky, right?
Yes.
So what Becky gets into at the end of her question is, have you guys, with all of your experience and all of the amazing stuff that you're able to do, have you ever found yourself in a situation with a dog that you can't help?
Yeah.
Right? So I've got some notes. Okay, Becky. So for one, I'm really sorry about everything that's transpired. When we talk about dogs that are in a dangerous state and injuring people, I think it's a good check-in for you, as well as anybody else that might be in your situation, to truly, truly pause and contemplate. As much as we love dogs, do we want to bring a dog into a situation, regardless of what the experience, the past experience with the dog, fear, abuse, whatever? If that dog is going to be in any kind of potential headspace to harm a child or harm an adult, I think we have to say no to that. I think that at some point we have to say, we have to prioritize the humans as much as we want to help, right? So it can be very easy to get into a space where it's like, all dogs are worthy of help. All dogs deserve a chance. All dogs, can be transformed. And while that's a nice, romantic, sweet, beautiful thing to say, the reality is that it's not the case. And what ends up happening, as in your case, is that several people were injured, and then, luckily no one was, you said mauled, no one was terribly, horrifically, hopefully not put into a space where they were not able to recover completely physically. But the psychological scars are going to be
Tremendous.
incredibly intense. Yes, tremendous. They're going to be horrific. And so you can't be cavalier, and I'm not saying you are, but you and nobody else could be cavalier in the assessment of that, of like, the heart is, we're trying to do the right thing for this dog who really needs help, yet he did this, this, and this. It's like, man, if a dog is in a space where they can do that kind of injury to a kid, and that kid is going to live with that for the rest of their life, that's something where we have to draw the line. Personally, for me, draw the line, and that dog does not deserve the opportunity to do that to a child. A child does not deserve to be in that space to have to deal with that, nor does an adult. But man, when you're talking about kids, you're talking about lifelong trauma that many will never get over. So this is not to hard time or guilt you, but it's for you, it's for everybody else that's in your situation, because you're not alone. A lot of people want to save the dog, 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 and everybody else around it is kind of like collateral damage. And I know that sounds like not giving things a very empathetic view, but it's like that ends up what it kind of ends up being, And so I just wanted to address that first part, because I don't subscribe to, and I've pushed back against this a lot in a lot of my writings, my books, and things like that, the concept that every dog can be saved, every dog can be fixed, every dog can be rehabbed, every dog can be transformed, every dog can be changed. A lot of messages out there, a lot of messages from famous trainers, a lot of messages from TV shows, a lot of messages all over the place. And what it ends up doing is creating these false expectations, false expectations of what's possible, and then people end up getting injured. So that doesn't mean don't try and shoot for the stars, and don't try and see what you can do, and don't try to help dogs that need help. But you have to be really, really, really dialed in and really make some very, very, very astute decisions about the risk factor here and who's living in my house or who's in my neighborhood or anything like that who could be affected by this. Not worth it. I love dogs and I want the best, but these kids and these people in my neighborhood, you know, like especially even elderly folks, they don't fucking deserve it. They don't deserve to be put in that space where they're damaged. I mean, go through, and this is not just for you, it's for anybody who might be a little off the track with this. Go through YouTube and search dog attacks and watch a bunch of videos, and it'll sober you up right away when you see what dogs are truly capable of and how they can get into a space where they completely lose their marbles, and then the fallout is a fairly horrific one. So I just wanted to start off with that. I know it's a long intro, but it's so critically important, just so you understand where we're coming from, that we are not purveyors or trainers that propagate the concept of every dog can be saved and every dog should be saved. So, okay, along with that, now I'm going to move on. Okay, so while we're known for helping tough dogs, the degree we help is determined by the dog and the owners. Some dogs can make massive changes, some dogs less so, and occasionally we come across dogs who are simply too dangerous to be in a home or out in society. This happens perhaps once a year, once every couple years, so it's not often. But yes, if you're asking, has this ever happened to you, as if we're some kind of magical place where all dogs, no matter what they come with genetically or experientially or whatever, we're able to just like transform them and all that goes away. That's not the case. For the majority of dogs, we're able to transform them and put them into a space that's far, far, far better than where they were at. And if the owners really do their work, we can keep moving these dogs into a better space and a better space and a better space and a better space. But there are dogs that are so far gone and are so dangerous that it's absolutely a terrible choice, an irresponsible, unethical choice to try and train and keep them alive and keep them going. Now, if somebody wants to take that dog, and it always comes down to the owners. We were in a situation recently with a dog that I was working with that was a very large, very intense, very scary dog. And I'm not scared of dogs very often, but I was keenly aware of the damage that this dog could cause. And we actually stopped the program partway through. I was like, it's not safe for my trainers, it's not safe for me, and more so than that, I don't want to be connected to what putting our stamp on this dog is being trained by us. I don't want to be connected in any way, shape, or form to this dog because I feel this dog is so dangerous. Now, we shared that completely with the owner, 1,000,000%. We let them know, this is what we recommend. I think this dog should be put down. I think this dog, if a mistake is made and any of these contexts come up, which are like a multitude, kids running, kids on a skateboard,
just people hanging around,
somebody hanging around, somebody tripping and stubbing their toe, sneezing. Like, this dog was so on edge and so physically able to, like, huge physically able to take somebody out, that when you have the physical potential meets up against or meets up with the mental,
the drive and the intensity.
yeah, the drive and the intensity and the lack of control and the lack of stability, then you really have to do some serious questions. And so just to kind of wrap this up.
But also, if you're wondering if you could have helped your dog if you would have found Sean sooner, because you mentioned that the dog has been put down already, that's again going back to what Sean said in the beginning. When a dog starts to be dangerous to kids, especially in your own home, then that's a completely different story. I just don't want you feeling guilty that you had to put your dog down after you found someone like, or a place like the Good Dog who deals with tougher dogs, wondering if you have done the right thing, because in my opinion you have, because the dog sounded dangerous.
Yeah.
And you don't want your own kids with running around with it, or growing up with a huge scar on the face, because
A scar physically and mentally. Yeah.
So just
and we've had people that have been in the luxurious position, and it sounds a little bit overly dramatic, but the luxurious position of coming to see us and have us work with their dogs, and then have to make a phone call 2 weeks from the drop off and say, like, it's not going to work. So whether you could have gotten to us or not doesn't mean that you would have achieved the goal that you wanted to achieve. So I think what Marta's saying is right on the money. And I think what you did as far as putting the dog down was absolutely 1,000,000% the right thing to do. So, all right, hope that helps.
Okay, question number 4 is from Lynn. I'm gonna guess and say Broku or Broku. Correct me in the comments, maybe.
Okay.
Not you.
Oh, sorry.
I have a 5-month-old boxer who I've been working on with healing and place commands. She's super savvy and extremely food driven with a ton of energy. Once I take the prong collar off or her flat collar on and leash, she goes crazy, jumping, growling and nipping at us. I've been leaving a flat collar and leash on her when she's around us so that I can try to correct her when she goes off, but sometimes it's difficult to get a hold of the leash and then it almost becomes a game. I know timing is everything with corrections, but I feel super stuck with the training and this type of correction at this point. Thanks.
Okay. So Lynn, Brochu.
One or the other. One of those three. It's going to be right.
So I'm going to start off with one of my favorite sayings. So Lynn, you're driving down the freeway. Stop me if you've heard this before. You're driving down the freeway and you see a cop pulling up behind you. No lights on. He just pulls up behind you. How do you drive? If you were doing 70 and the speed limit 65, do you slow down? Both hands go on the wheel.
Upright posture.
Upright posture. You're keenly aware of all your surroundings. If you're going to switch lanes or exit, blinker comes on, look over your shoulder, do the whole deal, right? Your very best behavior. Why? Because there's a cop behind you. What can cops do? Cops can share consequences. Consequences we don't like. Now, you're still driving, and instead of turning off, the cop turns off. So you keep going, and the cop goes, I'm gonna go hit the Starbucks. And you keep going. Now what happens?
He's gone.
Thanks. What do you do? There was like a sad, wistful, like, he's gone. What does it do to your driving behavior? Do you now drop one hand,
Legs.
get back here, relax, like scoot down a little bit and get yourself into a relaxed space? probably speed up a bit. If you're going to change lanes, might give a little glance to your mirror and just cruise. Now, why did you go from the most upstanding citizen, the most keenly aware, dialed in, following the rules to the T driver, to just seconds later doing something dramatically different? You're still driving down the road, you're still in the same car, nothing's changed, except the authority figure that was driving behind you, who could share consequences for poor choices, bad behavior, got off the freeway. Now, it's very easy to connect this to a prong collar. So you're saying, and I don't know all of your dynamics. I don't know, like, if your dog's crated and then when you get home, you put the prong collar and leash on him and take him out of the crate and he's got that on and you can make sure that you can interact with him. Or you walk him on the prong collar and then you bring him back in the house and you take it off and he runs amok and does his thing. I'm not sure what all the details are, but I want you to get more than anything that there's a concept out there that dogs should be trained. And if they're trained on these tools, if you teach them appropriately, if you teach them right, then they know. And once they know, you're good. Once they know, you don't need to reinforce it as far as like with consequences, corrections, punishments, things like that in order to sustain it. Why? Dogs are smart. They know this is what you're looking for. This is what you want. Except everybody leaves out that little part. That dogs are opportunistic. That dogs are looking to best take care of themselves. The dogs are looking for whatever is going to enhance their life. Just like you speeding on the freeway and chilling out and doing this whole thing. So, what I want you to connect is that the minute you take the tools off, or the moment you take the tools off your dog, you should expect that your dog starts to misbehave, because now you've created a huge contrast. You've gone from being in control, being able to direct and guide your dog and lead your dog, and share consequences, corrections, punishment for poor choices. All of that's gone. Now here's a huge contrast, and now your dog knows, woohoo, I can do anything I want. And all they can do is chase after me, yell at me, try and tackle me, try and put another collar on me, but I'm faster. And I think you said your dog nips at you and nips at people and does all this stuff because he's so accelerated, so animated, so escalated. So what I want you to get is that as soon as you remove the tools, it doesn't mean you've done crappy training, like a lot of trainers would tell you. It doesn't mean that there's some missing link in there that if you did it right, you could take the tools off and the dog would be like, I just want to please you. It's such a bunch of bullshit. The dog's going to know, oh, prong collar's off, party's on. The whole thing is, if you're going to do prong and leash solely, then the dog should be crated whenever the dog is not supervised, whenever you're not working with the dog, and whenever you are working with the dog and supervising the dog's got a leash and prong on, and he's dragging it around the house, and you're doing work with him. He's in place for an hour and a half. He's in a down on place. He's not moving, he's not whining, he's not barking, he's not growling, he's not doing anything, he's not trying to slip off a place, and if he does, you say no, you walk over and you pop the leash and you correct him and send him back. So that's one option. The one option is to make sure you keep the tool, the prong and leash tool on, or tools on, to ensure that you always have the ability to influence your dog. Now, if this doesn't work for you and you're one of those folks that are like, well, we walk the dog on the prong, but when we get home, we just want to take it off and let the dog be a dog. Fair enough. Let the dog be a dog, but it doesn't sound like you're liking what dog you're getting from his dogginess. So you still need to figure out, how do you punish your dog? And you may not like that terminology, but punishment, just to clarify, means to diminish or eliminate a behavior. It doesn't mean hitting your dog with a stick or, throwing shoes at them or screaming and yelling or anything like that. It means to diminish or eliminate a behavior. So one of the simple, cheap, easy options for this is just to use a bonker, because you've got a bonker and you don't need to have a leash on. So if you take the leash off and you've got a bonker and your dog instantly starts to go bananas and go through the roof and starts to misbehave, and if you look up bonker training, Gary Wilkes on YouTube, or you look up bonker training, Jeff Gelman, solid canine training on YouTube, there's plenty of tutorials that show you how to make a bonker. It's a rolled up towel with a couple rubber bands. Doesn't hurt the dog, but it will actually change the dog's behavior. So look that up. And then if you use them in conjunction, then you've got the leash and prong for the walks if you want. And then you've got the bonker inside the house for correcting any arousal, any escalation, any nuttiness, jumping, nipping, anything that comes, like, just so you understand, this like nipping and jumping and misbehaving in general, that all comes from your dog being hyper aroused, just like, oh, like Beavis and Butthead, if you remember, like Beavis back in the day. That's too old for you. But yes, so now here's the other part of this, is that if you want to actually train your dog to do behaviors like sit, down, place, recall, and things like that, then you're going to need to use the leash and the prong. The bonker is not going to be the training tool. The bonker is going to be the enforcer for your dog misbehaving. Now, you have a bunch of different things that I just offered you, and if you get creative, clever, and you put the pieces together and you do the work, and you really try and analyze what I just said, this should all make sense, right? So without consequences, without authority, without leadership, without the awareness that something could be punishing if I misbehave, your dog is most likely going to misbehave. So you have a variety of ways of going about how you're going to navigate that and create the best thing that you want. And my best suggestion is leash and prong for the walk, leash and prong to train the dog for all the behaviors, and then a bonker if you want to remove arousal, or if you get into a space where you eventually want to transition to taking your dog off the leash and the prong and your dog starts to amp up, because what does he think? He thinks, the policeman just pulled off the
highway?
Pulled off the highway, pulled off the exit. That's what I was going to say, the driveway. Just pulled off the exit. Instead, with the bonker, you say, oh, no, he didn't. The policeman's right here. And then your dog goes, okay, and everything changes. So,
but long term, the e-collar is probably the easiest.
So that's also in my notes here.
Oh, okay. So
yeah. No. But I mean, that's also in my notes. And so that's why every dog that we work with here through our program goes to e-collar training, because we don't want to have to have a leash and prong being drug around. We don't want to have to bonk a dog for every single thing.
Like play a chase game because they run away with the leash on.
Whatever it is, yeah. So, I mean, we were just training a dog that was in place, and the dog was across the room. He's e-collar trained. Excuse me. And as soon as he got up and started to take a step off, I had the remote here. I said no and tapped it, and he stopped, and I said no and tapped it again, and then he backed up and laid down on place. Now, without e-collar training, you'd have to, if you had leash and prong, go over and correct him and then put him back on place, which means you're going to have to move your booty around an awful lot. Or you could say no, throw a bonker, and hope that the bonker actually helps him put the pieces together, but doesn't overwhelm him so much that he then makes a mistake and like flies off down the hallway or something like that. So for us, e-collar training is absolutely the way to go, but I know you didn't ask about e-collar training. So what I gave you was a very simplistic, easy approach to get into this. But if you want the real magic, you'll jump into e-collar training, and then you'll be able to see that what you'd like to get out of your dog is like, I mean, can you imagine Billy B, our puppy, if we had an e-collar trained her? Like,
I
we
would
would
keep
have
her in the
had
crate like 20 hours a day.
we would have had to
hours.
driven her out to the lake and
Question number 5
yes.
is from Corey Novak. Working on reactive nervous GSD cross Dovey, who is vocal. You suggested dominant dog, which is helping. She
Good.
tends to form negative associations with certain corners and whines and shakes there. It seems almost unconscious or out of her control. Mostly correcting low on the e-collar just seems to make it worse. What to do about that? Also, we do pretty well crossing perpendicular to other dogs' paths where she knows to look away. But our problem area is when they are in front of us, and worse, going the same direction, so we slowly catch up to them. She understands not to look beside, but not when up ahead. Any suggestions?
Corey, making me work. Good grief. Okay. So I'm happy the dominant dog collar is working. Or helping. That's super cool. With vocal dogs, it's a really nice tool to have. If correcting the whining, I think you said when you're coming to certain corners or certain places that your dog is conditioned to being
makes it worse.
Yeah, but going to corners or certain areas where your dog's conditioned to feel uncomfortable and your dog is whining or shaking, and you're correcting and it's making it worse, I would probably just jettison that and just let it go. So I never correct for panting. I never correct for shaking. I never correct for anything that is kind of, how would you say, beyond the dog's control. So whining gets into like a gray area. And it's one of those things, and I'm glad you're bringing it up because it's good for other people to hear. I would probably initially start by correcting the whining, but then I'd have to figure out, like any other dog that we're working with, is this helping? Sorry, someone's having like a doggy dream. You'd have to figure out, is this helping? And when you say that, I can't remember the exact wording, but you say that you don't think that it's helping, you think that it might be making it worse. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like. So I'm not sure if your dog is whining and a higher correction might actually cap that, or a high correction is going to make it way worse, or a lower correction, I think you were saying, is what you've been doing, is just going to continue to kind of like exacerbate and keep it flowing. For me, I tend to get creative with that stuff. I'll try different tools. If the dog's whining, I might even give it a pop on the dominant dog collar, even though it's not the best tool for that. It's got a different sense. It has a different pressure source, right? Pressure sensation. That's a better way to put it. So, dominant dog collar with a quick little pop like that, maybe it might actually have an effect. Or dominant dog collar and a little tap on the e-collar, or a little tap on the e-collar and the dominant dog collar, or simultaneously. I mean, there's a lot of different variations. You can actually like have your dog in a sit and step into your dog, right? Your dog's in a sit, your dog's like, like no correction, and move into your dog. And your dog doesn't even have time to like now sit, collect itself and go, It's just like, whoa, I got moved out of my space. And it kind of breaks that whole perceptual thing of like, I'm worried, I'm concerned. So I'm not talking about running your dog over, but I'm talking about being strategic about like, okay, if my dog's in this space and it's whining and shaking, are there any other options that I'm not exploring that might help my dog get out of this space? So I would try a lot of different things. I might even like take, like if the dog's on my left, I might even take my left foot and just give it a little bump like this. What happens? Just check it out. Experiment. Feel it out. We're not talking about anything reckless or anything drastic. We're just talking about like, and you want to see like, does the dog go, whoa, that was novel. That was really unique. Okay, I'm going to stop doing that. Or does the dog just continue? A lot of times trainers or owners get stuck in just doing a couple things, and then if they don't get the results that they want, they just kind of stay stuck. So what I really like to encourage people to do is be ultra creative. Try a lot of different things, mix and match, try combinations, try higher levels, lower levels, pressure, like constant pressure with the dominant dog collar, a quick snap with the dominant dog collar, moving into the dog, turning the dog around to where it can't face what it's looking at. It could go on. It could go on and on and on. We don't need border collie like mayhem in here, guys. Go relax. So that's part of it. And then we've got what else do we got? Okay, and then you've got dealing with interactions when you're walking your dog, and I think you said that.
So walking side by side, not having the dog turn the head to the left or right works great, but when they are walking towards someone else or at the same direction and they're slowly catching up is an issue because they're like straight ahead.
Right. So here comes the other ugly truth of dog training, and that's that there's no perfect answer for a lot of these things. Archie, there's no perfect answer for a lot of these things. So we all have dogs that have issues or some kind of baggage, and sometimes we just have to find our best way around that baggage. And that might be that, okay, if we're following a dog and we know that the dog is going to, if our dog is going to get worked up or concerned about it, maybe we go across the street. This isn't about avoidance and about being a coward and not tackling what you need to tackle. It's about like, well, maybe at this point in our progression of behavior and training, maybe it's not the best time to try and address this. And
maybe it's also like the limitation of like you've reached so and so much, and now because the dog is nervous, that's like you've already gone from whatever lunging and being reactive to maybe slightly nervous and whiny, but that's like not as good as it's gonna get. But every dog has its limitations, right? So that might just be the limitation of like, I understand not to look to the left and right, but if it's right in front of me, I don't know how to handle it. That might be the dog's limitation. So go to the other side of the street, or turn around, or wait until they go past you.
Right.
Instead of trying to make it be something.
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks get caught up in that if they're not addressing it or tackling it head on, and no pun intended, but not tackling it head on, that they're not actually doing the work. And nothing could be further from the truth, because if I was out working with a reactive dog right now and we're walking down the street and I know that my dog that I'm working with gets worked up as it starts to approach another dog from behind, I'm going to move out of that space. I'm going to cross the street. I'm going to change directions. I'm going to do other things. Not forever, but I'm going to do it until that dog and me are so rock solid that I can then start to experiment with like, how does like a block? How does half a block? How does a quarter of a block? How does like 4 houses? You know what I mean? Like, I'll just experiment and see what I can get. Same thing goes for walking past each other, right? So I think he was talking about head on, right?
Head on and same direction.
Yeah, same direction stuff, right? So same direction, you're walking together, like, and you're catching up, and then passing each other, which is always the hardest because it's always the most eye contact. It's always the most challenging for dogs. The best thing you can do with that is just use a bubble. And we teach that to all our clients. And the bubble is really simple, right? Dogs coming down the sidewalk, and as soon as you see it, instead of panicking, and I'm not saying you panic, but a lot of people do, they get like...
Even unconsciously, even just like lifting their arm up a little bit and starting to tense on that leash.
They get tense, they get quick in their motions, they get herky-jerky, they try and make things happen right away instead of just being like a dancer, kind of flowing, right? You're walking down the street, I see a little problem, let's go, or heel, and you start walking out into the street, And maybe you just walk out on the street and that 3 feet of distance is more than enough for your dog to be like aces. Or maybe you need to be all the way across the street to the other cars. Maybe that's enough. Or maybe you need to be on the other sidewalk all the way across, completely across the street, and your dog's like, thank God. And then you slowly close that gap over a period of time. I just think what we typically see are people trying to move too fast through hard situations where dogs could ultimately improve that, close those distances, close that bubble. Once they, here's the magic. It's like once they build the trust in you that, for one, you know what the hell you're doing, you know how to correct and address them and control them, but you also know how to navigate in a way that feels like you're just comfortable, like you're like waltzing down the street. All of those conversations contribute. People think they're just like pressing buttons and moving dogs around and corrections. It's like, it's such simplistic bullshit. Like when I'm out with a hard dog, like I'm dancing. It sounds funny, but like I'm dancing with the dog. I want to flow. I don't want the dog to feel any angular stuff. I want to like, okay, dog's coming. I know my dog really has a hard time with this. If he stares at the dog from like 9 houses away, correction, break that, and then bubble out, nice and smooth. Not a bubble like this and out, a bubble like this. To where the dog's just like, that's smooth. You're not worried. You're not freaked out, but you are giving me space. And your dog's like, you've got things kind of under control and you don't put me in the line of fire. I kind of like your style and I kind of feel more comfortable. And as we keep doing these exercises over and over again, I might just be able to do better and better and better because I trust you.
So as much as we want to hold the dogs accountable, we also want to make sure that we know how far we can push them. So yes, you want to hold them accountable, but also if they are clearly not doing well with something, then help them out, give them the space. And we want to push them as much as we can to see if they can get better and not be stuck in something, because maybe they can, but if you keep doing it and the dog clearly can't, then it's a limitation. So yes, accountability is important, but we have to pay attention to like how to help our dog if we ask for the accountability, if that's space, if that's crossing the street, whatever that might be. And also if you're starting to push, if you think the dog can do better, just make sure that you're being reasonable and not trying to put too much on the dog, because there might just be that's as good as it's going to get,
a ceiling,
that just has to be okay at some point.
Yeah. I'll close out with this. I've got this, it's coming out in the new book, but it's called The Deal. And the deal is this. The deal is, I'm going to ask you, talking about you're my dog, I'm going to ask you to give me your very best. I'm going to ask you to not be reactive. I'm going to ask you to listen to me. I'm going to ask you to hang with me. I'm going to ask you to trust me. I'm going to ask you to be connected and in the best possible healthy space with me. That's part of the deal. The other part of the deal is, if we agree upon that, my part of the deal is I will advocate for you. I will not put you in the line of fire. I will not let you be overly pressured. I will not let you be put into a position where you can't win, where you're going to lose, where things are going to fall apart, and then I'm frustrated and annoyed with you, and you're a total mess. So that's the deal. The deal is I'm going to ask for your best behavior, and I'm also going to read into what's possible for you specifically as far as what your best behavior is. And then I'm going to advocate for you, knowing, having that comprehension of what your best behavior is, and make sure that I take the best care of you. And that, to me, is the deal. The deal is, I got your back, but I'm also going to ask for your very best. And if we both hold up our ends of the deal, you got a really good shot of good things happening.
Yep.
Cool?
Sounds great.
I think we should wrap this baby up. It's getting late.
Yes, it is.
Okay, guys.
Thanks.
Pizza, cookies,
Thanks, pizza.
wine. What did you have?
Pizza.
No, in that.
Oh. Double Jameson.
Double Jameson. Well, she is.
On the rocks.
Well, at least it was on the rocks, right? It wasn't straight up. She's Polish, you know. I mean, like it comes with the territory, right? Not the Jamesons, but the
drinking.
yes, yes. So, anyways, guys, we'll let that all go. Wish us luck on the move. We've got.
You won't be here. It's gonna be me moving on my own.
Wish us luck on the move.
On the move.
Wish me congratulations on not being here for the move. Wish her luck on the move. And by the time I get back from Detroit and LA,
you'll be coming into a freshly new, moved into house.
It's all about your calendar and your schedule and your strategy, guys. I'm telling you. If you want a private like phone consult, you want to learn how to do this, like just reach out to Alexis. We'll put it together and I'll help walk you guys through this. Anyways, all right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you soon. I know it's been super erratic. Life's busy. We're trying to get shit done, but I hope this is helpful for you guys. All right, take care. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.